Lit. Roll up to the party. Roll up to the party. Roll up to the party. Roll up to the lit. Roll up to the party. Roll up to the party. Roll up to the party. Roll up to the lit. Roll up to the party. Roll up to the party. Roll up to the party. Roll up to the
Good afternoon, and we are live. Good afternoon, we're live. Good morning, in fact. What time of day is it even? Anyway, good morning, we're live, and we're going to talk about Harry Kewell as well as some other Celtic news this morning. Just to check that this is live and the sound is okay. Yeah, the sound is fine this morning. Perfect. Morning, Tarmac. How are you? There's 29 people on. Jeez, that's good. Good morning, John from the Government Emerald is in the house. You know how I feel about that bus. It's a fantastic bus. Lots of memories going to your pub and lots of memories in there. Anyway, Vinny, right in with it this morning. Right in with it. Graham Hardy's in also. Right, let's talk about Harry Kewell. Harry Kewell's been lined up to leave Celtic. And is it I don't think it's a really good one for us. He was brought in specifically to work with our wingers. The Australian could be set. It's been suggested to leave Celtic after working under Postecoglou and Celtic. Would it be a good thing for him to go down there? Now, let's face it, he wasn't successful as a manager, the first two teams he was at. He has had time at Notts County and Oldham. He wasn't too successful there, but if he is to leave Celtic and if he wants to go out on his own, well, where does Celtic go for there? A lot of people have been saying this morning, is it a good time to then bring Scott Brown back to Celtic? And I'm going to say no, and I'm going to say that Scott Brown wouldn't take up the opportunity to come to Celtic. I don't think Scott Brown has been mentioned this week for another job down south. And John, and let's face it, Scott Brown has said that he wants to forge his own career. Hence the fact that he went down and he had a couple of days with Ange Postecoglou on the pitch. Even though he never worked with him with his time at Celtic, he did go down to see how Ange does the training, and you'll probably find that he'll do more of that. Anyway, if Harry Kewell is to leave Celtic, will Celtic go in and bring someone else to work specifically with the wingers? Harry Kewell has done a fantastic job since he's been at Celtic. But he's going to that league in Japan. If he goes to Yokohama, fair play to him, and off he goes. Good luck to him if that's what he wants. And Andrew said, good luck to him. If he does well at Yokohama, he'll end up future Celtic manager. No, he won't, Andrew. He will not be a future Celtic manager. Not a chance. Not a chance. He's not done it at a high. He's not won. Winning. You've got to remember, Ange Postecoglou was offered the Celtic manager's job because he had won trophies in Australia, and he had a bit of a track record. Not just in Japan. We seem to think of Ange and his time at Japan, but you've got to remember that Ange had won trophies before he went to Japan. Anyway, we move on from him. We move on from Harry Kewell. We put that one to bed altogether. Callum McGregor, right? We all spoke about this before for weeks now. We've been talking about Callum McGregor playing further forward. John, the truck driving legend, how are you? Back in God's country of Balfarg. Man. How cold is it back home today? Callum McGregor playing that a little bit further forward. Is this a worry for Callum, though? Because, let's face it, Tomoki Iwata was perfect for that position. Tomoki Iwata was absolutely perfect for that whole midfield role. Pushing Callum McGregor further forward, what then happens when Rio Hatate comes back into the team? Who gets dropped? Is it a worry for Callum McGregor? Or, as the manager says that, look, Callum McGregor has been fantastic for me. His first time around, he's the ideal football player. You could say that Callum McGregor's performance, he said, against Hibs, the manager said, I really enjoyed watching him. It took me back to my first time here. He's such a special player for the team in so many ways, for the club as a whole. From my perspective, to have that desire and mentality and hunger to continue to want to succeed is phenomenal. I played him in virtually every position at my time at Celtic, both the first time and here. I even played him in centre half in 2 games. Tactically, he's just brilliant. That's all fine and well, but once Rio Hatate comes back into the team, what does that do for Callum McGregor? What does that do for the shape of the team? Is this us looking to the future And maybe for the fact that Rio Hatate might be getting sold in the summer. It'll be interesting. Anyway, whatever happens, it's in the future, and we can't control that. All we can do is about 2 degrees of sunbathing weather. I mean, yeah, nice trip to Elgin later. Well, there you go. Elgin, that's a cracking little trip. That is a cracking drive. I can remember doing a couple of gigs up in Elgin back in the 90s. Anyway, let's get back to the game. No, let's talk about O. O, um, will he start after his fantastic form against Hibs the other night? The 22-year-old has now scored 5 goals for the season. He was very happy to be given the opportunity to get into that starting 11. And he was happy to score. He says, I try not to be too lazy. I do what the manager has told me. So what is important is to play aggressively, said O, which is nice. Right, talking about this, right? Let me just think here. Talking about this, we've been linked with this Aberdeen guy, right? There's also been a suggestion that we're going to go back in for the Brøndby guy, but Brøndby, and that's never going to happen. We're never going to go back for the Brøndby guy now because Brøndby are now looking at a crazy amount of money for him. They're looking at nearly 10 million euros. If we go for a striker, and say we do go for the Aberdeen striker and we steal him from Aberdeen from absolutely buttons, but we're never going to pay the 4 million that they're thinking about because of the situation that they're in. If Lanky will catch you next year, condolences to you, Lanky. And we'll see you in the new year. Take your time, and I hope everything's okay. It's always a hard time when it's hard. I know. Yeah. Yeah, take care, Lanky, and thoughts are with you. Anyway, we move on. Uh, God, when you look at O and you look at the striker that we're going to come in from Aberdeen, will Celtic pay that kind of money for him to come? And then once O and Kyogo are back from the Asia Cup, is he going to be the type of player that is going to sit on the bench? Is he going to be the type of player that sits on the bench? Because I don't think so. And it's something that we need to think about. Yeah, Andrew, you're right. We're going to look at a formation change. Are we going to go to a 3-5-2? It's something that we've played before. It was something that we're really successful at. With all these good strikers that we're going to have at the club come February, March, we need to think. We need to really think about what we're going to be doing. We're going to bring a striker in, and is the Aberdeen guy the type of player that we need? Let's be really honest. Yes, we know he can score goals in Scotland. Yes, we know he can score goals against the current ones, but can he do it in Europe? Is he the type of striker that can score us lots of goals in Europe? Can he take us to that next level in Europe? Is he the type of player that can take us to that next level in Europe? These are all the type of questions that will be asked. But these are the type of questions that will be asked over the next couple of weeks, especially if we go in for this Aberdeen guy, because when Kyogo and O come back from the Asia Cup, where does this leave him? Where does this leave him? Does anyone get put back to the bench because Kyogo and that's come back? Kyogo's form hasn't been particularly great this season. People are now starting to come out with ridiculous comments. Had his head been turned and all the rest of it? I don't think his head's been turned. I just think he's having a real low point of form. It could be the fact that Celtic, if Kyogo doesn't go to the Asia Cup, could finally get him in for this operation on his shoulder, and we'll get that sorted out. Vinny's just coming out of it. It's only a matter of time before Kyogo and O are out injured at the same time. Then what? Yeah, it is true. It is then what? But we can't sit and we can't be in the same position as we're sitting with the defenders. Let's face it, there's going to be a couple of defenders that will leave. We can't afford a striker guaranteed to score in Europe. Well, I'm thinking that we can't because we're sitting with 70 odd million in the bank. So we need to go out and buy. Let's face it, we're not going to go back for the Brøndby guy. There's a story kicking about this morning that Celtic have been watching the Brøndby guy. We have been watching this Aberdeen striker for a number of weeks. And short term, it's an ideal thing to go and get a player that I think would fit right into the Celtic team. But then it all comes back to once all the players are back, it's you're not going to have 3 strikers happy. Look, for years now, for a couple of seasons, we had a really decent striker that wasn't happy playing second fiddle to Kyogo. You're not going to have 2 strikers that are going to play second fiddle and third fiddle to Kyogo to come on and be happy getting 10, 15 minutes a game. It's never going to happen. I think it could be a situation that we really need to look at the formation of the team. And I'm sure Brendan will do that anyway. Let's get to some more Celtic news. Obviously, Brendan Rodgers has been talking about Callum McGregor and how important he is to the team. One of the funny things is Lewis Palmer. Lewis Palmer, we bought him for 3.5 million, a 23-year-old. Just over 2 seasons ago, he was being offered to teams in Spain for just over 200 grand. Um, as he was desperate to get his move to Europe. He then went to the Greek club that Celtic bought him from, and when you look at it, he is a player. Imagine if we got Lewis Palmer for 200 grand. Would that been just as good a deal as getting Henrik Larsson for 650 back in the day? Lewis Palmer is going to be a fantastic player for Celtic. I think he's found his feet. He showed that he can be one player that if we keep him, it'll be interesting to see what he does against Feyenoord next week. I'm really hoping that he has a fantastic game. He's gone from strength to strength as a player. He's a player that excites us vastly, and I think with Tilo on the other side, when we finally lose Dies and Maida and everybody, because it looks like we're getting to the closing stages of the grand finale of the show of the Japanese players' time at Celtic. That's just my thinking behind it. I think it'll be a couple of the Japanese players that'll probably be sold in the summer for good money. But anyway, when we look at Palma, the fact that we could have got him for 200 grand, we paid good money for him, we paid 3 million. I think he will be one player that would definitely get his dream. His dream is obviously to get a move to Spain, and it won't be before long that he gets that dream. I think once he does, he keeps on doing what he's doing at Celtic. I'm taking Palmer to shine next week, and I'm going to stick my neck out right now, and I'm going to take Palmer to shine against Feyenoord and show everyone in Europe what he can do. Anyway, McDonald and Hooper smashed it domestically. More goals than they did in Europe. Yeah, they did smash. Scott McDonald scored a few goals in Europe for us back in the day. Scott McDonald did score a few goals in Europe. A lot of people sending out condolences to Lanky, which is a fantastic member of the community that we've got here. And I'm totally thinking about you, Lanky, just now. Anyway, I need to get back to the Celtic news. Those were the days. Let's say Southampton want Adam Armstrong. How much would I don't know. How much would Southampton want for Adam Armstrong? Rodgers got to find a system that Kewell gets him more involved in dangerous areas. Andrew, I think when you look at it, look at the goal that was scored. Big O scored. Right, he took on two defenders, pushed off the strength, the upper body strength to push off a defender, and then scored his second goal. Kyogo doesn't really do that. Kyogo is a different type of player that will play off the back of defenders. It'll be interesting. I hope Hatate gets punted as soon as possible. Overrated. Maida and Kyogo is kept under water. I think Hatate will be one that will get sold. It'll be interesting to see when he does come back. And the big question is what will happen to Callum McGregor if Callum McGregor is playing in that further forward area? He's not going to drop Matt O'Reilly. The manager isn't going to drop Matt O'Reilly. Hatate is a player that can cause other teams problems. He's only really done it, and he can go missing in games sometimes. He can go missing, and let's face it, this season, at the start of the season, his form is absolutely terrible, and his misplaced passes. I think his misplaced passes is one thing that will go against him. So maybe Rio Hatate will be the one that struggles to get back into the team, and Callum McGregor will be the one that's kept that position. Anyway, let's get back to the comments because there were some interesting comments just for there. There's no way he's overrated. He's a class player and he's only going to improve, says Vinny. I want him to start against Feyenoord with O'Reilly and Calmack. I think it's probably going to be the same starting lineup next week as what started on Wednesday. But you never know. You never know. Brendan Rodgers might just change it up and he might just give guys a chance to play in Europe. He definitely needs to start. For me, O needs to start against Feyenoord. But we do have a game this weekend. And wait a minute, before we even talk about the game this weekend, why don't we do that this evening? We'll do a live at 6 p.m. tonight. Make sure to get as many people. I want to try and get at least 200 people on the live this evening. 6 o'clock Celtic Park time till 7 o'clock this evening. We'll talk about the game against the team that beat us in the Vidplay Cup at the start of the season. Yes, we need to remind ourselves of that. They're on a high of getting their first away win of the season against Aberdeen. Derek McInnes will feel that he can get something from Celtic again. We go back to the scene of the crime. Tonight we'll talk about the team. We'll talk about what we think the lineup will be. I think it'll probably be pretty much where it was. And we'll talk about the goal scoring opportunities that we might have. And we'll talk about the scoreline. Because let's face it, against Hibs, I'll hold my hands up and I said it's going to be a tight game. It'll be 2-1. And Hibs really come out and have a go. Hibs came out and had a go. And the score was what it was. It was 4-1. Anyway, Brendan Rodgers, after that tactical tweak, bringing in Tomoki Awata, he proved himself against Hibs. It'd be interesting to see if David Turnbull gets near the bench even now, with only a couple of weeks to go to the end, to the transfer window opens. Will David Turnbull be one that's pointed out the door? Will Paulo Bernardo get some more game time? And Odom Owen. They've all had chances under Brendan Rodgers, but after the way that we played against Hibs, it was a fantastic result, and we played really well. It's the best football that we've probably played pretty much all season. Tell me your thoughts about it tonight. We will have the live this evening. On that note, I'm going to cut this video short here. I'm going to get ready. I need to go a bit a new cover for my phone. Turnbull was on gardening leave. No, we're not putting Turnbull. How much will we get for a Champions League win? We get 2.5 million for a Champions League win. Chopwell, do you think Mikey Johnson will start? No, I don't think Mikey Johnson will start. I don't think he will start, but we can talk about that this evening. Anyway, on that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, and make sure that you join the live. I want at least a minimum of 200 people on the live this evening. Have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, all around the world.